Hello everyone, it's September 14th. We're starting to see the first polls trickle in after Hillary's fainting spell, and it looks like Trump is now ahead. Now the significance of this cannot be overstated, and the reason why is because we have had a government ever since 1963, when our president JFK was assassinated by a faction of the CIA that has been directly or indirectly controlled by this faction of the CIA ever since. With the exception of Jimmy Carter, he's the only president I can't find a direct connection to the group that organized the assassination. And I can't find any links to Trump. So if he does win this election, he will be the first person since Jimmy Carter that was not the part of the gang that assassinated our former president. And this is actually what it means to be an insider in Washington. Is that not necessarily that you are part of the gang, but that the gang is friendly towards you and has a relationship with you. Now, why is this significant? So there's two reasons to assassinate a president. Or two types of assassinations that occur. One is the lone nut, and the other is a coup d'etat. Assassinations either occur from within the government or from outside the government. Those are the only two types there are. And if it occurs from inside the government, the goal is to seize control of the government. Now, a coup is there's an obstacle to a coup in the United States, and that's that we have a system where presidents are elected, and they change every 4 years, and they can't be for more than 8 years. So if you are a gang that wants to take control of the government, obviously in the aftermath, you have to have people positioned in the aftermath of the assassination to take power who are part of your group. And in every subsequent election, you have to do what you can to influence first the candidates who are nominated, so that people who are friendly to you, either because they're aware of it or just because or not, are promoted, and people who are not friendly to you are sabotaged. And that's really the only way you can control the government without just declaring a dictatorship and being completely obvious about it, which would not be sustainable in the long run. So what we're seeing with Trump is the usual techniques to try to sabotage him, deny him funding or whatever. They haven't been successful. It's due in large part to the rising cynicism of the American people after living under the coup for the last 50 years, that every election cycle we see that things do not significantly change, that politicians promise one thing and then do another. Well, why is that? Especially at the presidential level. So it's almost impossible to tell what Trump will do. The reason he's seen as a threat is just simply because he does not have ties to the deep state, or whatever you want to call them. And that is extremely risky if you're the CIA, because the CIA, if my theory, or a lot of people's theory, is correct, that the CIA assassinated JFK, then at that point they became the government. They became above the elected government because they had just assassinated their commander-in-chief. So at that point they became the commander-in-chief. But to do that, if they want to be able to, let's say, arm rebels in Syria, or they want to be able to run drugs out of Afghanistan, or they want to do whatever it is that they're doing around the world, they need cover of the president, so that the president will protect them from law enforcement agencies, because a lot of what they do is illegal. But as long as the president is on their side, then they can get away with it, and they do. But if the president is not someone who is friendly to them or knows about their existence, then if another agency of the government, say the DEA or the FBI, starts investigating something, he won't necessarily quash the investigation. And some of their misdeeds might become known, and they might lead to jail time, and the whole network then is at risk of coming apart. And that's how criminal networks are taken down, is that someone is threatened with serious jail time, and they inform on their higher-ups or the other people in the organization to get a more lenient sentence. So we can apply the scientific method to politics. So if I'm wrong, then what would you expect to see? Well, you'd expect to see sometimes the government we elect acting as if they're in charge of the CIA, and they can tell them what to do. They can put them in jail. They can regulate their behavior. They can expose things that are going on. So when has that ever happened? When has someone in the CIA been put in jail? And by that I mean, when have they been put in jail by the government for doing something the government doesn't want them to do, not for doing something that the CIA internally did not want them to do? And that just doesn't happen. And this is why. And this is why this election matters. It is our first chance to have someone who is not a part of the gang that killed our previous president. And that is where things start to get extremely interesting, because then there's a danger that this network will come undone. So, thank you for watching.